So, hello everyone. So, I will continue with the interactivity in new media. So, the interactivity is one of the main characteristics of new media. New media is a term used to describe both qualitatively new forms of media, as for example, the differences between analog and digital media, and to describe media changes which in turn significantly affect society. Characteristics of digital data make it particularly suited to enabling interactivity. Interactivity is seen as a key association with new media as it basically sets apart the old media and new media. Old media could only offer a feedback type of interaction, whereas new media is much more engaging to the audiences. Technologies such as DVDs or digital TVs are classic examples of interactive media devices where a user can control what they watch and when. However, the internet has become the prime model of an interactive system. Users can become fully immersed in their experiences by viewing materials, commenting on it, and then actively contributing to it. So, interactivity can occur at many different levels and degrees of engagement, which we used to see in interactivity, and it is important to differentiate between these various levels, which we have already done. Uh, User to user interaction via internet, then parasocial interaction, where new forms of media are generated online and the way devices can be engaged with by the user. Everything comprises interactivity. What is parasocial interaction? It represents a kind of psychological relationship experienced by the audience in his or her mediated encounters with performers in the mass media, particularly on television. So viewers and listeners considers media personalities as their friends despite having limited interaction with them. So we see that interactivity is related to new media art technologies where human and animals are able to interact with and change the course of an artwork. The artists and researchers around the world are working on the unique interfaces to allow new forms of interaction that extend beyond the QWERTY keyboard and the now ubiquitous mouse. Various authoring tools are available for creating various kinds of interactivities. Some of the most common platforms for creating interactivities include Adobe Plus and recently released Microsoft Silverlight. Silverlight is Microsoft's competitive answer to Adobe Company's Flash. It is used by some web pages or website for streaming multimedia content. The plugin for Silverlight is available for some browser. You might know what is a plugin. Plugin is a built-in application in browser which added to a browser to enable it to interact with a specific type of file like video, audio, Word document, and so on. Then we see that we all are in e-learning web. E-learning makes use of the concept called interaction model. Using an interaction model, any person can create interactivities in a very short period of time. Some of the interaction models presented with authoring tool fall under various categories like games, puzzles, then simulation tools, then presentation tool, etc., which can be completely customized. Uh, Simulation tools are basically simulation softwares which are used by engineers or even business person uh, by engineer to imitate a real world phenomenon before manufacturing an engineered product. As for example, AnyLogic is a leading simulation software for business and for other purpose also it can be used. And there are many other softwares, simulation softwares available. Then we see that hypertextuality as a defining characteristics of new media. What is hypertextuality? As we move the cursor across the web pages on the computer screen and sometimes also across documents that are not on the internet, the eye-shaped line of the cursor changes to a hand with extended index finger as it passes over certain words or block of words or icons, images, graphics, or part of the graphics, such as the major cities or specific areas in a map. So if we click the mouse, then the pointing finger is positioned over something. A different text opens up. This may consist of writing, graphics, images, or any combination of this, either at a different location on the same page as before or on a different page altogether. The new text may also be an audio file or a video file. Thus, the hand with a pointing finger indicates the existence of a link between two documents or part of the documents. The original one over which the user had been moving the cursor before clicking the mouse, and the new one that opens as a result of the clicking action. So this link, which is implemented through a programming language called hypertext markup language, is known as hyperlink. So the word or block of words over which the cursor changes into hands, that is in which the link is embedded, and that is known as hypertext. The word hypermedia, you might have heard of this word, is sometimes used in place of hypertext when the linked items are not just written words but also include audio and video files. So the hypertext or hyperlink is apparently a simple innovation in the technology of writing, or generally speaking, of information management. Hyperlink, the idea was put forward for the first time by Vannevar Bush, an engineer, in his article As We May Think, which was published in the Atlantic Monthly in 1945, described his vision of an interactive mechanism called MEMEX. Vannevar Bush was an American engineer, inventor, and science administrator who headed the U.S. Office of Scientific Research and Development during World War II, through which almost all wartime military research and development was carried out. So we see that the mechanism would reflect the human mind's tendency to think in a nonlinear associative way as opposed to a linear hierarchical way by storing for retrieval whenever needed vast amount of information linked together according to user's requirement. Then we see that the term hypertext is said to have been coined in 1962 by Theodor Nelson. Another person who contributed to the idea of hypertext is Douglas Engelbart. Theodor Nelson is an American pioneer of IT, philosopher, and sociologist. Then we look into the narrative properties of a hypertext. And those are basically multilinearity, multivocality, active reading, and decentering. What do you mean by multilinearity? as printed text without annotations are read in one direction only from top to bottom, which is a characteristics of reading, and this is called linear reading. One of the effects of hypertext is to abolish this kind of linearity, since the reader is able to choose from a number of alternatives. By clicking the hyperlinks he or she encounters in the text, reading becomes multilinear or multi-sequential. Then the second feature is multivocality. As related to the consequences of hypertext, since the links take the reader into different texts authored by different people, hypertext becomes the product of a number of consciousness rather than that of a single consciousness. So hypertext doesn't permit a tyrannical univocal voice. Then we see active reading, which is also a key property of hypertext, since the reader chooses the reading part by choosing the links to be followed, reading which may actually include listening to audio files or watching a video clip, and becomes a far more active process than it is in print, radio, and television. Thus, we find a certain blurring of the distinction between the activities of reading and writing that are the key characteristics of print and broadcast. This implies a partial loss of control on the part of the author and a corresponding gain of control by the user or reader. Then we have another property called decentering. One important consequence of hypertext is that it decenters the text. As readers move through the web or network of text, they completely shift the center, and hence the focus or organizing principle of their investigation and experience has also shifted. Thus, hypertext provides an infinitely recenterable system whose point of focus at any point of time depends upon the reader. Here we again encounter the active nature of reading. While this absence of center can create problems for both readers and writers, it also means that the user of hypertext makes his or her own interest the actual organizing principles for whatever he or she happens to be reading online at any given point of time. Then we look at the uses of hypertextuality, which is basically not a property of hypertext. The simplest use of hypertext is in navigating the web. This may be for moving among different websites, among different pages of the same site through links like next or next page or previous pages or more, etc., or within the same page with links like top of the page or bottom of the page. This function of hypertext may be viewed as analogous to turning the pages of a book or a newspaper, or retrieving books and other printed matters from a shelf. And then I would like to summarize the differences between new media and old media. The general difference between new media and old media is concerned more with authorship, publication, production, and distribution. New media is different from old media in terms of degree of interactivity that is offered by media, which enhances the participation and collaboration of content and production among users. We have already discussed about interaction in previous lectures. Then degree of autonomy. In comparison to users of new media, we see that this new media have, in comparison to users of old media, new media have more control over the content published by other media house or organizations, and to distribute your own product in the network with leisure or zero amount spent. Third one is a degree of playfulness, which is also one point of difference between new media and old media. These features of new media open more interaction between users and provide rich experiences and satisfaction to users. So, play is an activity pursued for pleasure. The daily withdrawal of people into the mass media in their after hours is a matter of subjectivity. The effects of mass communication is not escapism or seducing the masses, rather, it is seen as anti anxiety producing and are regarded as communication pleasure. So, pleasure or play here refines experience and dignifies the individual. Unexceptionally, play is voluntary and not compulsive. Play is never imposed by physical necessity or moral duty. It is never a task. Play is a distraction. Play is an interruption, a diversion, a departure from the day's burden and responsibilities. Play is temporary, expressly circumscribed within the limits of time and place. Play is immediately valuable and end in itself. Play is inherently pleasurable. It is fun but not frivolous. It is intrinsically satisfying. Then the play is governed by rules. Just as we learn to be human, we learn to play. Uh, Reading today's news for enjoyment, playing in and with communication requires a certain aptitude and ability to see the story through the facts. So to speak, a capacity for appreciating image, not just assimilating information. Analogously, anyone can read Shakespeare, but not everyone will truly enjoy the experience. So, reading is an intrinsic delight, consumption is an immediately pleasurable activity. The acquired taste of reading and consuming can be developed over time and only with experience. People use mass media and new media for the same reason. They attend a play, they read a novel, they play golf or talk with people, talk with friends and family members. So there people use mass media because they enjoy them. Little further explanation is needed. So then we see that the pleasure form of communication is a thoroughly absorbing and self-enhancing experience whose value lies not in the information it imparts but in the sense of belonging it instills. Play is voluntary action or activity which is assumed voluntarily within certain set boundaries of time and space, but performed according to absolutely binding rules. It has its goal in itself and is accompanied by a sensation of suspense and joy and an awareness of being different from ordinary life. New media has provided that pleasure experience through diversified artifacts and technologies with the integration of interactive features and multimedia component. Then I'd like to discuss more about autonomy. New media is different from old media in terms of autonomy, as we have already found. What is autonomy? The autonomy or personal autonomy can be defined as the ability of an individual to achieve self-determination, and self-governance. The core of personal autonomy is the intellectual domain which enables us to think for ourselves. Autonomy is our capacity to question the world around us, give answers, and develop on our own. In other words, autonomy claims to have the potential to build a meaningful life which we comprehend, develop, and enjoy. The ideology of autonomous being, autonomous individual, is pervasive and familiar feature of late capitalist modernity. You must recognize that you alone are the source of all the conditions and situation in your life. You must recognize that whatever your world looks like right now, you alone have caused it to look that way. The state of your health, your finances, your personal relationship, all of it is your doing, yours and no one else's. We take pride in being independent thinkers and doers, and we want to feel that we are in control of our lives. We believe in personal responsibility, in blaming and praising people for actions that are up to them. It is common sense that we acquire and exercise our capacities for self determination and autonomy in interaction with others. Uh, if we look at the traditional philosophical accounts of autonomy, we see that it has focused on the capacities and characteristics of individuals that are required for them to count as self determining and responsible, paying little heed to social conditions that might be harmful or conducive to acquiring or exercising these capacities. In this respect, it will be ridiculous to suggest that there are no social conditions for autonomous lives. Here arise the contradictions. Give, it gives rise to a real challenge, just what kind of social relationship we are compatible with, or perhaps even necessary for developing autonomous agency. If and when we value autonomy and wish to promote it, what should we do beyond granting people's rights against interference? These are certain questions we often dealt with when we use new media. From the beginning of the 21st century, we have been going through a media revolution which has changed the way we think, express ourselves, and live. Half of the world population is connected with tablets, smartphones, and laptops, which provide access to search engines, social networks, and websites, which are all considered as new media. Therefore, we are able to communicate simply by sending messages. And these technologies, often referred to as new media, which enable us to create content and records, which enable us to share, like, comment beyond national borders, and to reach as many as people as we want instantaneously. If these new digital features in our life are said to be indisputably wonderful, we may be blind to the dark side and unable to realize what society has lost. Hence, it is important to understand the issue that the new media causes, because without awareness, it can affect people's autonomy negatively. New media has brought crucial effects on our autonomy. Now we see you have acquired autonomy in learning. You are sitting at home listening to the lecture and determine the pace, the pace of your own learning. When some people think of autonomous learning and learning with technology, the picture that might come to the mind is that of a student working in isolation, and when they see our students in the computer lab, the scene might just confirm their hypothesis. But autonomy and technology suggest communication and union, and not separation and isolation. What is autonomous learning? Who is an autonomous learner? Autonomous learning is the ability to take charge of one's capacity, one's own learning, to hold the responsibility for all the decisions concerning you in terms of learning, to take all the decisions concerning all aspects of learning. New media and web-based technology facilitates and promotes communication and sharing among users worldwide. The blog, wikis, podcast, RSS feeds, aggregators, social bookmarks all have been rapidly adopted by people. Now we accept, adopt and use Web 2.0 tools. What is Web 2.0 tools? Web 2.0 emerged as a result of the need to communicate, to interact. We will discuss about it later on. New media tools allows us to access various inputs and interactions by helping us to use the four skills of language, especially reading, writing, listening, and speaking. While wikis, forums, blogs provide opportunities for reading and writing, tools like podcast, videos, blogs, vlogs, video blogs, then webcast, and screencast, among others, give access to spoken language. Then we see that new media is different from old media in terms of a degree of privacy. The right to privacy is an issue of greater in scope and effects in today's world, considering the massive technological advancement. From the perspective of the consumer who uses the handheld mobile devices aggressively in this growing world of speed and communication, privacy has been a biggest concern for users of new media technologies. Information privacy is broadly connected to collection, control, and awareness. We'll discuss about privacy as a problem with new media technologies later on. The 21st century has seen a growing number of ways to use information, as almost all individual activities involve some kinds of data transmission or another. So with the initiative of Government of India on Digital India project to bring change in information processing in all sectors of the society, India has to enter into this digital revolution. This has resulted in the inevitability of data collection process with the shift of India to digital economy. Moreover, the internet has made collecting, organizing and handling personal data directly or indirectly a key part of existing business model. So we see that the advent of internet and gradual developments in surveillance technology uh, as employed in collecting and retaining mass of information from users and consumers. The concern for privacy has been growing in the modern world. The discourse around privacy represents the way third party handles the information transacted in the online in the wake of omnipresence of personal data. Risk dimension of privacy is often known as the intimacy risk, which concerns how e-shops and e-commerce companies use data for own interest, sell the customer database to third parties, and expose consumers to unwarranted advertising messages. Okay, this is all for today. If you have any difficulty in understanding any portion of the lecture, drop me a message in WhatsApp group. I will try my best to address your problem. Thank you so much.